right, so just go ahead and hit the cord and you're good.
Yep.
Okay, so today we are going to replace a bad defrost control that is electronic with a manual or a mechanical one. So when you do this, it's something really important. I always ask these guys, do you see a black wire? If you see a black wire on a defrost control and it's in the middle of these two, so you see you have 4 wires on the actual cold control. So let me just pop this off. So there's only 4 wires if you look really closely. So if the black wire's in the middle of the 3 set, so you see how your 3 set and this one on, that means that if you put a mechanical cold control, you have to change that wire, otherwise you're gonna burn up the mechanical one. So if you look real close at this diagram, this is why it will burn it out. When you plug the 110 cord in, you're putting 110 volts right to the defrost control all the time. Now when it goes into run, it sends cold control power to the, it's supposed to send it to the compressor, but on this configuration, it sends it to the cold control first, which sends it back to the compressor. So it's a funky setup, and we have to change that to this setup because that's what's gonna not allow it to burn up. So instead of going straight to the, when you plug in the power, it's gonna go to the cold control first. Power's gonna come back out of the cold control when it says I need to cool, and go right to L1 power, which means this defrost control will not be turning all the time. It'll only turn when it's asking to be cooled. So we're gonna have to switch some things up. As you can see here, we got some funky stuff going on. We got compressor here, L1's here, and our defrost. So the only thing that's not changing is our defrost. So that makes it really simple when we have this all drawn out. So now let's do it, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So we need to get this plug off. So I usually pry it just like that. So now we have essentially a wire harness that will plug into this new one. But if we were to just do this like I was taught, you will burn out the new control because you're gonna have 110 volts going to this. So if we look on the back, it's kind of harder to see on this one, but you have 2, 1, 4, 3. Those are all labeled out here as well. So this is a particular, this particular one is a, most likely a Kenmore. Let's double check. Sometimes they have the part number on there, but I'm gonna look and see what configuration this one's in already. So I always want this capacitor to be in the middle. If it's over here on the last one, it needs to be in the middle, which means you probably don't want to use that particular capacitor or this control. So this control will work perfectly for what we're about to do. So I always pop these apart and just double check. Always look at the contacts as well, see how they're nice and clean. So nice clean contacts is gonna make, again, the disclaimer for this video is this part is no longer made. When you can't get a part, this is when we start making videos like this because we need to get you out of a jam when you're in the field. So if you're in the field and you're stuck and all you have is a defrost control, this is how you're gonna make it work. That is why I'm doing this video. I'm not trying to show you how to swindle someone, how to freaking rig something.
Right.
I'm showing you how to make something work that will last forever. This mechanical control will last forever if you do this right. So now we're gonna reassemble it. Some guy once told me, why the hell are you breaking all my defrost controls? I said, I'm not.
As long as that capacitor was wired to that middle tab, we're good.
Yeah.
And that would be the only modification we would make.
Correct. So that's why I'm doing 2 things when I pop it apart. Checking the configuration, which is, this is a standard configuration for GE, Frigidaire, pretty much anything that doesn't have this black wire on it, it's going to run in a standard configuration. So I'm going to go ahead and reassemble this guy. So you really got to make sure your pins go inside. So these 2 pins need to sit in there and there. So when you reassemble it, just don't force it. Just nice and easy, and it'll snap together. And you can check it by spinning it, and you should hear the click. That's good for defrost. So let's go ahead and get this board out of the way because we're not going to use that anymore. It's defective. We didn't put it into defrost, so we just melted all our crap, melted our ice in the evaporator. So if you look on this standard configuration for a second, I'm sorry, this is the standard configuration. This never changes. It's always standard. Neutral's by itself. Compressor's always on 4. L1 power, which comes from your cold control. It always comes from the cold control. The way you can tell is typically it's orange, and it should be going to the middle. See how this one's not going to the middle? So we need to work off of our standard configuration. This never changes. It's always the same. So now that we got our board out of the way, let's go ahead and make this a standard configuration. So currently, we've got some funky stuff going on. We got compressor by itself, where neutral should be. We've got cold control power, where compressor should be. And we've got L1 power, where cold control power should be. Confusing, right? So all we need to do is make those right. So I need that scratch awl tool. Real simple. Instead of cutting wires and using all this stuff, just release your tab. If you press real loosely right here, it's really tough to see sometimes, but if you press just right, you can get this guy out. Hard light today. See, it's starting to come. So if you just press with the scratch awl tool, there's a little tab in each one of these. You just press to the left and pull, and it comes right out. So now I have wires to work with. So again, I don't have to sit here and mark wires or anything like that. There's only 4, and they only do 4 functions. So based on the colors of Whirlpool, I know that on a Whirlpool, compressor is always red. So I don't have to guess. There's not much going on here. Red goes to the plug, which goes to your evaporator fan and your compressor. Real simple. So all that we have left here is defrost. Perfect. That's gonna go on 2. That's where they always go. So, only thing I don't have is a pair of diags. So let's do what we can before we grab the diags. So where does orange go, according to this?
It's neutral.
Is orange neutral? So orange is essentially cold control power.
Okay.
So where am I getting power in this diagram from? So I plugged in my 110. I got power to my cold control. Power out is going to L1 power.
Yeah, it has to come from L1.
Okay. So where is this orange wire, if it's coming from the cold control, where is it going on this?
To 1.
Okay. So where is 1 on this? If I just put this right here.
It's going to be the next one after defrost.
Okay. So go ahead and, so you're going to slide it right in, just like the same orientation.
Yeah.
Slide it right in, snaps in. Done. All right, so we got 2 down. So here's where this particular model gets tricky. So you'll notice there was another test probe for these 2. So I need to do 2 things here. Compressor needs to be on its own. It doesn't need to be with the cold control, because then it would send power to the compressor all the time. So hang on for 2 seconds.
Yeah, so that L1 would be like a constant hot on the compressor, which we don't want.
We want L1 to be constant hot.
Right.
So what do I need to do here then? If this is compressor and this is hot, would you split them?
Well, yeah, if one's hot and one, yeah.
How would you know which one to cut? I'd personally cut the one that's not.
The one that's on the plug will be going to the compressor.
Correct. So what do we do with the compressor wire now that we just separated
Well,
it?
we get its own thing. It could stay as it is on its own.
Okay, and where does it go?
4.
Okay, and where's 4?
4 is next to 1. The
Okay.
L1.
So we got L1, we got defrost, L1 power, and now we have compressor.
Same as the diagram.
Locked in, good to go. All right, what's missing? What else needs to be on
We've
this
gotta
in
have
order for
neutral.
that control to work? So how do we get neutral?
Okay. Neutral. We might have to jump a wire.
Yep. Which wire would you take?
I mean, typically in electrical application, white is neutral, but we can't assume that.
Right. So here's what's kind of cool. This particular fridge already has the neutral there for you So what I would do, and I'm gonna hold the phone while you do this, I would take that scratch all and use that plug. All it is a plug in some plastic. Press your tab. If you got it just right, it'll easily pull out. And just push to the left. If it's not coming, you're close. You just have to push the tab down. It'll come pretty easily. So grab the phone here real quick. I'll show you this tab. So you were behind it.
Oh.
The tab is right here.
Oh.
So all you're doing is pressing down.
Oh, okay.
You hear it click.
Yeah, I didn't see that. Okay.
And it comes right
That
out.
makes sense.
It comes out with like one finger. So.
Now, is that marked neutral on the board? Is that how we know it? Or, or would we have to have a schematic?
Well, the board's not using, the board is using one here. So it's using white and brown to test the defrost.
Right.
So it's a little bit more advanced, but it's not marked on this board.
Right. Okay.
But how do I know? Whites are connected together.
Right.
To the lights.
To the light, and the light needs a neutral.
Yep. So here's
That's
how I just confirmed
that's the giveaway. So it wouldn't matter what color the wire is, by virtue of a wire going to the light and having to share, because neutral has to
neutrals are
flow through the circuit.
Yeah, up until 2019, and codes have changed to having things.
So the light is a way we can trace the neutral.
Yeah. So say you're out on a job, you have no board and you have no wiring schematic. This is how you're figuring all this out.
Yep.
So what do we do with neutral? Where does it go?
Neutral gets its own tab.
Okay. So we're just gonna plug neutral into 3. And it's the same orientation all the way around. So we now have our defrost set up correctly. What are we missing that's going to make this fridge work?
Well,
we took something out of the equation.
Yeah, we took out our L1.
So we literally have no power. Like you could plug this fridge in right now, and here's your power to your controls.
We're going to have to wire nut that to the orange.
Well, the orange already has power. It's power out.
It has power out.
So I didn't write orange on here because this is for anything you ever have to change. This.
We're gonna have to go power in to the plug.
So we already have power coming out of the plug.
Out, right?
It goes to the light switch. It powers the light, and this one actually has that's brown. So we have power coming out of the plug, and we have a wire sitting right here for our cold control.
So that's going to jump to this one in the plug.
So what I would do, because I can't connect this any other way. Now I have tried to do this. Most people would say, why don't you just plug it in right here?
Oh yeah.
The problem is the plug for this is back here. So now you're pulling, you're pulling the black plug out. So my personal thought is to cut this off.
Give us as much length as
and
possible.
just give us as much length, and you'll never have to worry about it again. So I try to use these connectors whenever I can. But again, if you're stuck out in the field and you got nothing, so I need to make sure my light power is connected and my power from my 110 plug. So we'll get a connector for this in a minute. And again, I'm telling you how to do this when you're in a jam, because you are going to be in a jam. Mark my words. So what have we just accomplished here? We had this, and we had our old configuration that was all pretty messed up. So we just turned this into a standard configuration now. So if we follow the way this all works, we have black. So I just plugged my fridge in. Power's coming in from my black wire. It's going to my cold control first. When I turn my cold control on, it's going to send power from the cold control out of the orange wire to my defrost control. As we looked at the defrost control, when it's in run mode, there's a little contact that flips over this way. It's now going to send power to my compressor and my evaporator motor, and when it's going to defrost, it'll send power to my defrost wire. When it's not running, when the cold control says, hey, I'm done, this is not running anymore, which means this lasts the rest of the life of the refrigerator. That's how you do a configuration change. This wire here is not going to be used. So you could literally cut it off, leave it here. It's not going to short anything out. I would probably just strap it in. So we're literally going to plug this back in and put the screws in. And we're going to put a connector on this and plug it back in. Everything's going to work perfect. It'll last forever. And that's pretty much it.